Hey everyone, welcome back to Brits Loving Life. It's Brittany here. I'm so excited that you're here today as we talk about coffee, conversations, and reflection and how those fuel creativity for your business. So, if you're new here, thank you for joining us today. If you're just returning, thank you so much for coming back. I ask that if you enjoy this content today or find it helpful, consider subscribing, giving us a like or a rating. We equals me, and thank you so much for being here today. You can also find me on social media. I'll put that in the description. You can find me on Instagram at Brits Loving Life or TikTok as well. All right. So today, let's talk about these different elements that can really help us fuel creativity. Creativity is something that's very helpful in our businesses. The world is constantly evolving. There's constantly new technology, new things coming out, and people are constantly creating and changing the way things are done. And this is across the board. This is in every industry. So I think it's kind of a fun conversation to have about how we can really fuel that and tap into it so that we can become the best version of our businesses that we can. So, how is creativity created, right? Sometimes it's just on the go. Sometimes you'll have these random thoughts. First, I will always recommend that if you have a random creative thought and you're like, oh, I'll write it down later, write it down at the time that you have it. Believe me, they always get lost until you finally write them down. And so I've been getting better at that lately, and I hope you can do the same because I've had so many ideas that are just long gone now because I never wrote them down. So as soon as you have them, write them down. But how can we really have a session where we try and pull the creativity out and have an intentional moment where we can really pull the creativity out? It's important to know creativity needs space to breathe. You can't rush it. And so I would schedule some time to maybe do some of these exercises, or we're going to talk about coffee with somebody. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but I would just really schedule some intentional time for this, where you can dedicate maybe an hour to really letting this dive in and work its way out. First, let's talk about conversations. So, conversations can sometimes bring forth the best ideas or different angles or perspectives, and having conversations with different types of people is going to bring different types of results. So let's talk about going and having coffee with somebody. This is like getting out, really having an intentional cup of coffee. So say you're doing it just to, and we're going to be strategic about it, and use this cup of coffee, this conversation with this person for growth. So if we're just catching up with a peer, this will help you kind of gather insight. If it's somebody you work with, if it's somebody that you interact with on a day-to-day basis, you can try and understand what's going on in their world, what you're going through, and collaborate ideas from there. Honestly, the back and forth in those types of conversations can really spring up a lot of different ideas or perspectives. It's always helpful to get out of your own head and let somebody else hear your thoughts and let them come back with their thoughts. It really gives you this opportunity for growth and for new ideas. The beautiful thing about that too is how many people have different insights or perspectives or points of view on one thing. You can take one event or circumstance and give that to 5 different people and get 5 different perspectives on it. And so that's the beauty of having these types of conversations, to really get out of your own head and pull those in. I love it. So that's just kind of with peers within your own element, right? They're in your industry. Let's talk about connecting with somebody in a different industry. like cross-pollination. It may not be completely reflective of the industry that you're in, or it may not seem like something that could bring some benefit to you, but honestly, there's always going to be something to take from every conversation. So if you've ever, you could go to, like for me, I'm a real estate investor. You could go to a real estate investor conference and be around a lot of the same people doing the same thing. You're still going to learn a ton by being in that room. But if you're also in the same room for, say, a conference of just entrepreneurs in general, and they all are in different industries or different realms of business, you're still going to take a lot from that, because structural components or thought processes or ideologies or concepts can really be applied to a lot of different businesses. And truthfully, sometimes that's even more helpful, because it's something that, in general, real estate, people are all thinking in the same way. And then you go to one of these conferences and, these other people in a different industry have different ways of thinking or putting these ideas together. You pull some info from that and adapt it to your own industry. It can be a beautiful thing. And so be open to that, to really challenge yourself and think, how can this conversation with somebody in a completely different field benefit me? And what can I bring to them? Like I mentioned in my one of my last episodes, is walking into the room and saying, how can I serve people? What can you also bring to them, so that you're both taking something from it? And then next, let's talk about meeting with a mentor. This is going to be somebody who's 10 steps ahead of you. They've already been there. They're there specifically to help you with your challenges, coach you, or help you. And if you don't have one, I would highly recommend looking into getting one, or find somebody, even just somebody that you highly respect and look up to, and is somewhere where you want to be. And they may not even see themselves as a mentor to you, but you do. And so just take them to lunch and really pick their brain and try and open up that conversation to overcome challenges and see their perspective on things. This will really help you, especially if they're 10 steps ahead from where you're at. You'll always hear the saying, if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I think there's so much wisdom to be taken by being in the room, getting uncomfortable, and being with people who are far ahead from you. I will honestly say, always doing that and like really challenging myself to be around that, even if it gives me anxiety going into the room. Once you're there, quickly that goes away, because you realize how much successful people really love to help other people. They are open books. They want to see you succeed. They don't see you as a threat. They want to see you win just as much as they're winning, right? And again, there's outliers in everything, but that's the general rule of thumb and what I've experienced so far. So I hope the same is for you. So next, we're going to talk about reflecting. Okay, now we've had those conversations, and sometimes it takes a minute to just reflect on that. Sit with it for a minute. And I mentioned this again too, like we consume constantly. So even if you're having this coffee session with whoever it might be, let's reflect on that. Let's take a minute. Let's take a week and really reflect on the words that they said, the advice that they gave, or the concepts that they brought to the table that maybe felt like they weren't useful in the moment. How can they be useful, right? Really take the time to reflect. And sometimes you just need to schedule this in. Some quiet time. For me, I like to choose the mornings, and then I also do some at night. And I've gotten really good at just turning my phone over, putting it away, and that morning session is going to be specifically for this. And that just helps you really, get out of your brain, reflect it, maybe even write it down. I'm big on writing things down. And so that's a good way to get some reflection going. We don't often pause to really gain insight on the stuff that we've consumed, right? So take a moment to pause. You've consumed all the information, it's already in your brain. now let's get insightful. Let's really see what that means for you and for your business. Let's connect those dots and see how we can actually even turn that into action items for your business. There's some creativity to be had out of execution mode. Like I mentioned, that quiet time. We're constantly consuming, but we're also constantly trying to be productive and do these things. And let me see my to-do list. It's a million tasks long, and I need to get all these things done. But we never schedule this time for intentional reflection and to really just have a moment of silence to digest. So I would highly encourage that you do that and you try it. These are the elements that are going to help you plant seeds and just take some notes while you're going through. And even if this isn't a scheduled conversation, even if it's not a scheduled coffee with somebody, take notes. I've been starting to do this. I listen to a podcast and I'll take notes. I'm like, ooh, I really like what they said. Because again, I'll listen to it and I'm mentally, screenshotting that in your head. I loved that concept, but then you forget it. So write it down, take a note, open the notes in your phone and write it down. That's going to be the best way to come back to it and really use that in your reflection. Save it for later. Maybe even take your notes throughout the week. And then have that quiet time at the end of the week to be intentional and see what you learned for the week. There's so many ways that you can go about it, but it's important that you take the time to do it. So I want to challenge you with a little to-do for the day. Take the time to schedule one intentional coffee conversation with somebody. Either it be the peer, somebody that you work with, somebody that you know. Maybe it's a mentor, maybe it's a coach, maybe it's somebody who's, again, 10 steps ahead of you, someone you look up to that is where you want to be. Or maybe it's just somebody from a different industry and you're looking to open up creative insights that are outside of the box. These are all ways that we can fuel our creativity. Ideas come from conversations with other people. They come from learning, educating ourselves, and consuming different information. But it also comes from the quiet time of sitting down and actually digesting it and seeing how we can actually put that in implementation in our businesses. I like this quote that God often speaks in the quiet moments, not just the busy seasons. Again, if that's your thing, I think that's beautifully said because there's a lot to be had for the silence and digesting. Our brains are always operating. They're always on the go. Even if you think you're not, but you're scrolling social media, you're still taking in so much information in such a short period of time that we really owe it to ourselves to have that time of silence and reflection. So I hope I hope you take that with you today and you start to implement some of these things. I hope you challenge yourself to schedule that intentional coffee with somebody. I think I'll challenge myself to do that this week. And it's just it's a great way for us to also build those relationships. But it'll fuel creativity, bring new ideas, fresh perspectives to your business. And so that's what we do to pursue growth within ourselves and our business. So go for it. Go do it. Come back in the comments. I want to hear how it went, by the way. If you want to put that in the comments, I want to see where'd you go? Where'd you get coffee? Who was it with? And share some of those insights. And let's encourage other people. Let's keep it going. Let's get coffee. If you want coffee, by the way, I've got my coffee business, grizzy.com, if you want some really good coffee. If not, go grab some. Unless you're going to make it at home with them. But enjoy. I thank you so much for watching. This has been a pleasure to have you listen in with me. And we're going to keep on this growth mode. I'm really excited about some of the stuff that we're working towards. If you're interested in real estate at all, let me know. If you want some coffee, let me know. And just follow along. If you find this content inspirational, if it's helpful at all, leave comments for some ideas that we can keep moving forward. And thank you so much for listening. I just ask that you walk with purpose and you grow in grace. And thank you so much again. We'll see you in the next one.